Too bad our robots aren't flying for you, David, but let's talk about those that do fly. Of course, the story that's been much on people's minds over the last week or so is this teen in Connecticut who armed up a drone and took some video of it. And now the FAA and others are wringing their hands going, well, gee, what are we going to do about this? It doesn't technically seem to have been illegal, but it probably should be. Can you give us your take?
Sure. First, I love this story. It involves my two favorite things, drones and handguns. And so I was really happy to see this. I can't believe that the law enforcement in Connecticut are unable to put together a criminal case on this guy. It's clear to me that this is criminal reckless endangerment. Anybody who's ever shot a handgun knows that if it's tilted upward, like the artillery, if it's tilted, it can go for a mile. And that projectile can land on somebody, it can kill them. So what we're saying is just because they were on a small piece of private property that they luckily did not harm somebody, that itself was not a crime, that should not be. It should be illegal under existing laws. It's not legal for somebody to wantonly and recklessly point their handgun or any other firearm into the air and shoot it not knowing where the projectile is going to land. This is absurd. So that's number one. They should charge the father and the son with criminal conspiracy and reckless endangerment and bring them through the criminal court system. Number two, I can't believe the FAA, after sending all those $10,000 cease and desist letters to photographers, that they can't find a way to define this as a hazardous and wrongful activity. That's ridiculous. Number three, I have deep, deep qualms. As much as I love drones, robots, all the technology that's associated with that, the fact is that when you are handling a handgun, you need to be aware of the main safety rules, which is you don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot, you don't shoot anything you don't want to destroy, and you don't shoot unless the background is clear. You need to know what's behind where you're shooting. How can somebody possibly do that handling the fine controls of a drone? I just don't understand it. So I'm against what has happened. I think it was a great video, great news, really exciting to talk about. I think that it's a crime and it should be prosecuted, and the full force of the criminal justice system, so to speak, should be brought down on this father and son. It's just completely unacceptable.
All right. Well, that's a very definite point of view. And I think I'm with you. I'm actually really surprised that they haven't found a way to take action about this and make an example, right? Because if one person does it, that sort of opens the floodgates to all drone and handgun owning enthusiasts who want to see how the two can get along together. Brandon, I'm curious from your perspective as a law professor, whether this scenario reminds you at all of the cases that we all studied in torts in law school that involved the spring-loaded trap gun garage door protection mechanisms. If for those of you who didn't have to labor through these in law school, there were folks out there who decided that they were going to automate their security system, their home security system, in sort of a Rube Goldberg way. And instead of calling the police or setting off an alarm when a door opened in an unauthorized or unexpected way, a gun was trained at the door and set to go off. Those were found to be illegal. Are we in the same kind of territory here?
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. I mean, with all of these sort of, robot murder drone, dangerous drone type cases, that gets back to good old, torts and causality, right? Is who's the proximate cause of the harm? Can we, people keep saying, well, can a robot commit murder? Or, no, but a person can use a robot to commit murder, and that shouldn't be so mind-blowing, right? And so the fact that, this kid is firing a gun using a remote control and using a drone doesn't make it legal. I love David's approach to this. Too often, I think there's a sense that when something is done with technology, it's new. I mean, right? We have this problem in patents, right? Like, well, until Alice v. CLS Bank anyway, we had this idea that, if I do something with a computer, suddenly I've innovated. And similarly here, carrying a drone around, carrying a gun around willy-nilly is a problem, and doing it with a drone is also a problem. So I think that's a very important, very big picture principle to keep in mind, that technology doesn't actually scramble the fundamental principles of basic legal obligations like the duty of care.
Absolutely. Sarah, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, David summed it up really well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, we've got more drone-y stuff we can talk about. It seems like my desire to have tacos and pizzas delivered by drone is coming closer to reality. The first FAA-approved delivery was medicinal in purpose and did not involve feeding somebody's late-night munchy cravings, but it is a step in that direction, and it did not involve Amazon. Can you tell us about that, David?
Yeah, I think this was just a terrific development. I was really pleased to see that, contrary to your pizza wishes, that this was used in a way that helps people in a remote area access medical supplies. This has immediate applications for disaster relief, which is a big need all throughout the United States and throughout the world. I was just delighted. I was also happy that they took the time to get the FAA permit. It looks like more and more companies are finding that that's not a horribly difficult obstacle for these kinds of projects. What can I say? It was really excellent video to watch, and the context was perfect as far as I'm concerned.
All right. What do you think, Brandon? Obviously, as delivery drones are starting to get licenses and approval from the FAA, that raises a number of what we were just talking about, common sense safety issues that don't change just because we're using drones. How do you think the FAA and the state governments are going to deal with that?
Well, it's an interesting question. I'm not very good at predicting that kind of stuff, especially. So the FAA and state law are a little bit beyond my ken, but I will say that, I think this is such a clever way to, break the seal on this question of whether drone delivery could be a good thing. Dropping medicine on people who need it, right? Genius. These guys.
Let's hope they didn't drop it too hard.
Yeah, right. You got to put it down pretty low before you drop it on them, or drop it with some Advil also attached in case you hit them. Right. But yeah, I think that's pretty. It's a public relations coup. Good for them.